to Simpler. We are three pastors, husbands, and fathers on a journey to make life simpler by holding Jesus as the core for every belief and practice. This journey has shaped us to be more like Christ, freed us from the shame of failure, and encouraged us to a deeper love of our Lord and God. We invite you to join us in the discussions that have shaped and continue to shape our lives.
So I started taking Adderall now, and the headaches were hell for like
That's
a
what
week.
I was going to say is like, if you just wanted to take Adderall, you can get
That's
that
what it
stuff.
was. I had to go this 2-month process, get some Adderall. But it was crazy because one of the symptoms I never knew that was ADHD. She suggested, she was like, this may be weird. She said, but for some, like with an adult with ADHD, you might want to go read some like Reddit threads and watch some YouTube videos and just see like just the normal people and how they've changed or what things they put into place to help practice with it. And one of the things that I never heard until after I started taking medication was you have like almost like multiple streams of consciousness where like you're thinking about all these different things at once. And so it just clouds your mind. And I was like, oh, people just don't think that way. Like that's just not how your mind works, where you have 1,000 things going on at once. And as soon as I started taking Adderall, it was like, whew, I could just think. And I was like,
No, I want all the voices.
Oh,
Oh, you mean, okay, sorry. I see. Because I'm like, yeah, mine's just not clouded.
you might, yeah.
Okay.
So like now there's clarity to it. And one of the things that I really noticed as well was that like one of those lines of thoughts was like constantly in question and like beating me up like throughout the day of just like, well, you know, you suck at this and you totally suck at this and you're really bad at this. And then when there was, yeah, I know, right? And so then when there was,
Just for y'all
when there's,
too.
yeah, I know, right? And then taking this medication, now that there's clarity, now there's a lot more way to be like, now that's unclouded, that's kind of squashed and it's weird. I was like, I feel a lot less anxious all of a sudden. I was like, I didn't even realize, I would have never said I was anxious to begin with because I guess there was a level of control over that. But without having like that something, whatever it was, just whispering, and I guess it is a part of my mind, but it was weird because I was like, oh, you can just think? You can just think now? How? That's weird as that? I can get rest and I can think. I'm 35 years old. I didn't know we could do all these things.
Amazing.
I know. So.
I don't want it.
Yeah, I understand. Well,
Yours isn't clouded.
yeah, that's one of those things too where like, I would say, because one of the things that we've talked about is that we enjoy about the human brain is that you can hear a question and be like, huh, or you can think like, I want to do this. I want to think about this more. And you kind of put it in the back of your head and let it kind of work. And then when you come back, you're like, oh yeah. And then you piece it all together. That didn't go away, which was really nice. Cool. Where like, that was one of those things where I was like, wow, I'm going to miss that. If this pill does that, gets rid of that, I'm going to really miss it. But being able to go, okay, this is a problem that I can't focus on right now. Let me table that. And then when you come back to it, it's almost like your brain's kind of put a lot of extra pieces there where you're like, oh yeah, we can kind of do it all there. But anyway, yeah, so I'm learning actually that you can live a life where you can sleep and think, which is crazy,
amazing,
right? Weird.
Well, if you think too much, you apparently, from Ryan's world, if you think too much, you stop sleeping. So that might.
It's true.
That
Then
might mess
I
you
need
up.
2 CPAPs.
Then you just get a new drug, a new
Exactly.
thing.
That's what they're doing, man. I'm slowly becoming a slave to the American pharmaceuticals, but makes me feel good.
That's literally what everybody who takes drugs says.
I can stop anytime, okay? Stop.
It makes me feel good.
It makes me feel good.
Okay.
We're not talking about my problems today, Ryan. What are we talking about, man?
Today, we are going to have an NA meeting.
A what?
Narcotics Anonymous.
Narcotics, yeah.
I don't know what that is. No, AA.
That's because you grew up with parents who loved you, Micah.
I didn't know it's
Shut up.
actually called Narcotics Anonymous. It's like Drug Addicts Anonymous makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Da. Today we're going to talk about, we talked a little bit last week. It was supposed to be about, can you lose your salvation? No, you can't lose your salvation. But it really ended up being about what it means to be saved, that Christ is Lord.
Right.
So I want to continue that thread a little bit. And it's just kind of a discussion. I don't think it'll be super long, but a discussion on the idea that the purpose of God, and I don't want to say the purpose of God for me. I want to just say the purpose of God, period, is better than anything that I could come up with for myself. It is far better. And I want to include in that crud. Well, that's okay. I want to include in that everything like that I could suffer, every blessing that I could have, all of those things. Because in our, we talked about this several months ago, that To live as Christ, to die as gain. Y'all remember this? And one of the things that we said was that the only way to view dying as gain is if you're living for Christ.
Right.
Do you remember that conversation? Yeah. And that the reason that so many people are like, man, I don't want to die because then I lose everything, is because they're not living for Christ. They're living for themselves. And so kind of a continuation of that thought, that whatever God has purposed for me, like, I remember, and I think I'll be struck by it for a really long time because it's been in my head now for probably 20 years. But I remember hearing a preacher talk about him being in a small conference where he was listening to a preacher talk. So this is an old preacher talking about when he was a young preacher. And he was saying, I was a young man. He was in his late 20s, early 30s at the point. When I was hearing him, he was 60. And he was saying that a missionary came, took his shoes off because he had been a missionary to China for decades and had been arrested multiple times and tortured multiple times. And so he's sitting down in the chair, old guy sitting down, his feet are scarred. And he goes, I'm just going to sit down and talk to you guys like men. And so he's sitting down and he's talking. And he asked the question, if God were to, your wife was going to be pregnant and your next door neighbor, atheist wife, was going to be pregnant. And God said, one of you will have a handicapped child that will require your care your whole life. He said, what would you say? Like, if God's going, I'll give you the choice, right? He goes, what would you say? And the pastor who's retelling this story said, in my head, my first thought, he goes, I had just gotten married. We were about to start a family. He goes, and my first thought was, well, give the atheist the kid that's going to require the care. And he said that the missionary, not asking people what their opinions were, then stated, like, a kid that's going to need that kind of care is going to need somebody who loves them well. Why wouldn't we as Christians say, God, give that child to me. Let me love that child and show that child the love of Christ.
Right.
And this old pastor, who was a young pastor, was saying, man, that was a pivotal moment for me. Like, okay, God, what I want to pray is be glorified. And for us to come to the place where, it's Proverbs. Every what does it say? Crud, it's gone. It's not there. It was there. It was there.
There's a bunch of chapters. I mean, there's like...
I got some pills that help with that.
Yeah. So man directs his path, but every plan is from the Lord. Every purpose is from the Lord, right? So like, it's not that we can't make an agenda. It's not that we can't have dreams. It's not that we can't pursue college or accolades or jobs or careers or family, but to live the kind of life where we say, God, you be glorified. The purpose of my life is whatever you purpose for it. And that wherever we are. So when Micah and I started the church 17 years ago, and it was 9 of us, 10 of us, God be glorified. And now that the 3 of us are pastoring a church that's closer to 600 people, we say, God be glorified.
Absolutely.
And we're not concerned with the 11 or the 600 in the sense that that's the measure of whether or not we've done something. We're concerned with the 11 because God has entrusted 11 to our care. And we're concerned with the 600 because God has entrusted 600 to our care, and God be glorified. And people asked us when we were building the new building, like, what if we move into the new building and the church shrinks in size? And we said, well, we know what that looks like. We've taught a smaller group before. We can handle that. And I think what we have done is we 3 have attempted in our lives to make plans with our wives, our kids, our families, with the church that we're leading. But all along the way, we've just said, but God, we want you to be glorified.
Right.
Which allows us the freedom then to, when things don't maybe go our way, or when things don't go the way that we expected them to go, we can then go, look, God be glorified. Like my trust is in the Lord. My confidence is in the Lord. I know that Paul says also in Philippians that God would be honored by his life or by his death. And that we would live with that in mind, because I think it's really easy for us as people to be more in love with our agenda than the glory of God. And what's fascinating to me is the blessing of salvation. And we can stop there.
Right.
But the blessing of salvation is greater treasure than every single thing we've ever dreamed about happening for us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if God's purpose...
No, but yes.
Yeah. But if God's purpose for for us is that he would be glorified through our salvation. We Ephesians 1, that every spiritual blessing in the heavenly realm, right, is ours, that we have everything we need. 2 Peter, we have everything we need for life and for godliness.
Yeah.
Like Romans 8, that we are now heirs with God and of God and co-heirs with Christ.
Mhm.
That we have the fullness of the Spirit. We have the ability now in Peter again, 1 Peter this time though, to come before God and in confidence and in boldness. Right? That we can come into his presence, that we can lay our cares at his feet because he cares for us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That these things in their fullness, according to God's beautiful purpose, are more valuable than anything else I could possibly dream up or fathom. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the reason I was joking that it doesn't make sense. I think that
Yeah, I know what
I
you
think for a lot of people that it actually doesn't make sense practically is because our value system still lies in something other than the Lord.
Right.
Correct.
So like if I say, man, I had this great job opportunity and I feel like God moved me away from that, but it was going to be a huge financial blessing in our life. What you're saying is like financial blessing is a bigger deal to you than the relationship with the Lord. So I think you could put it in any situation. Like I think that where your value system lies is how you respond to it.
Agreed.
And so I think a lot of people, when they think about their life and the purpose they lay out for their life, the plans, like you were saying earlier, that we make for ourselves, I think they usually come from the value perspective of us.
Yes.
I don't think it's innately wrong.
Sure.
But I do think it could look different if at the core or the foundation of your thought process as you plan your life and purpose your life is my ultimate goal is to glorify God in whatever I do. Because then what happens is you're able to take any situation, to your point earlier, or any opportunity you have for like job or career, or whether your baby is healthy or it's not healthy.
Right.
That side note, that drives me nuts. People stop praying for a healthy baby. Like, because you're qualifying God's blessing based on your standard of value.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a dumb perspective. If you want to pray for a kid that will be a blessing to the world for the sake of the glory of Jesus. Like, can we talk about examples of kids who have ailments, who've grown up to be these people who rock the world with the gospel? And your prayer is that's not going to happen unless you give me a healthy baby. That's a dumb prayer. Stop praying it. Pray for the glory of God in your kid's life. Anyways.
Well, we pray that God would be glorified.
Yeah.
That's the right prayer. Yeah.
But this is maybe a best example. I didn't mean to go on the tangent, but now I'm like on it. So here we go. So like what you've just done, if you pray that, is you've set the value system for your kid being able to glorify God on a measure of what makes sense and is comfortable for you. That's your plan.
Yeah. Well, we do that though with a lot of things, right? Because we think that our ease of life is the reward rather than the fullness of life in Christ.
Yep.
So the easier our life is, this happens all the time. People, if their life is really easy and you say, how are you doing? They go, oh man, I'm so blessed right now.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do that. Now, some people will say I'm blessed no matter what their life looks like because they truly understand who God is.
True.
But some people will go, man, my life is so blessed right now. And then those same people, when the circumstances take a sour turn, man, how are you doing right now? Man, life is really challenging right now. It's really hard right now. And their value system, the way they perceive the world is based on their circumstances. Whereas, like, I have watched people, Micah, you've mentioned this about your mom dozens of times through the years over the podcast, but I have watched people who have died so beautifully for the glory of Jesus that as they got sicker and sicker, they seemed to magnify Jesus more and more. And they would just say, I always think of two people, a lady named Pinky Andrews, and then Terry, a buddy of mine from East Texas named Terry, both who died of cancer. And Pinky—
Is that the one on the video with the firecrackers?
No. Terry, back up.
Back up, Terry. Different, my bad. Different Terry.
No.
Different Terry.
What you? But these two people, the sicker they got, the more they just radiated the love of Jesus. It was insane.
Yeah.
I have, I think of the first person that I ever watched die with cancer was a friend of mine in 7th grade named Joey. And I remember him just loving Jesus till the very end, you know? And I can't tell you about any conversations that we had. I don't remember any of those things. I would have my mom pick me up from school in 7th grade, and twice a week, something like that, I'd go up to have her drop me off at the hospital for an hour and sit with them. I'd always rent a movie because they had I know.
I love it. You talking from the hospital where they had VHSs downstairs?
I would rent the movie the night before.
Oh, you go to like
at Blockbuster or whatever.
And good memories.
And then what I would do is they had the TVs on the carts that you could use for your room, and I'd roll it into the room and we watch a movie or something like that. But this dude just loved Jesus, you know? And I think about, I'll put it this way. We have just started at the church doing a little mini series on suffering and the proper Christian perspective on suffering. God was glorified in the suffering of Jesus. And I just think that we are too quick to shun suffering from the perspective that we think if we're suffering, something must be wrong, rather than
which sometimes is the case.
Sometimes is the case. But Daniel in the lion's den resulted in God being glorified to the nations. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace resulted in God being glorified to the nations.
Right.
The suffering that the people of Israel went through in Egypt and the final plagues that befell Egypt resulted in the name of God being made so famous in the world that 400 years later, they're still talking about it, right? And so I just... But then look, then you have the other side of that coin. So you have Boaz in the field who's blessed abundantly, and he marries Ruth, and then they are the parents ultimately of King David, the great grandparents of King. You know what I mean? He's a guy who was blessed, but he used his blessing for the glory of God. Like Daniel was blessed with wisdom and he used it for the glory of God. Daniel was suffering and he used it for the glory of God. And I think it's so easy for us to, I'll tell you a guy who doesn't use it for the glory of God. King Hezekiah. King Hezekiah is told by the prophet Isaiah, you're going to die. Put your house in order. Isaiah's leaving the palace, and Hezekiah turns his face to the wall and prays and says, God, give me more time. God tells Isaiah, go back upstairs, tell him I'll give him 15 more years. God goes and tells Hezekiah, you have 15 more years. Hezekiah recovers from his sickness, and then there are some people, the Chaldeans, aka the Babylonians, who come and visit him and say, hey man, we heard you were really sick and now you're well. And Isaiah comes back to King Hezekiah and he goes, what'd you show those people? And he goes, everything I had. And Isaiah says, God has said he's going to take everything you had then and give it to those people, but it won't happen in your days. And Hezekiah says, good, that it won't happen in my days. and just doesn't change anything about his conduct, doesn't repent, he's just like glad that it's not going to happen in his days,
right? Which
just shows the character of his heart. You know what I mean? He's just glad that the trouble's not going to fall on him in his lifetime.
Right.
He forgets, the Bible says, the kindness of God to give him an extra 15 years. And then when he hears about the judgment, he's like, oh, well, at least it's not going to happen to me. I'll let my kids deal with that crap, you know? And so like the idea of being like, look, whether I live or die, I want to live at the pleasure of the King. What we talked about last week, when we come to the place where we acknowledge Jesus is King, our deepest desire, let me back it up and say it a different way. All of the things that we could desire as humans, noble or ignoble, have to then be bent to the service of Christ. Does that make sense?
What do you mean ignoble?
Everything that you could desire, because I think that there are things that we could desire that are holy and things that we could desire that are unholy. And all of those desires that we can have as...
What is unholy? Like, I don't know what you mean.
I think that...
you mean like benign or like sinful?
Sinful.
Oh, wait. Oh, you're saying like you have to submit those to... Okay.
All of it.
I thought you were saying... Well, I was like, what the heck, dude? I thought you were saying like whether it's a good desire or a bad desire, it all has to be done for the glory of Jesus.
All of it is laid at the feet of Christ.
What it sounded like you were saying was, if you're having an affair, do it for the glory of Jesus.
No.
That's what it sounded like you were saying. I was like, what the heck are you saying, dude?
So I think we talk a lot about the ignoble things, and we say, well, you have to lay that at the feet of Jesus. I don't think we talk the same way about the noble things. Does that make sense?
No.
But
what do you mean?
If people say, oh man, I've really been struggling with this sin, man, you need to give that to Jesus. You need to give that up to Christ. You need to submit that to the Lord. I think we talk about that from a sinful perspective. I don't think we talk about it about the benign or the good things.
I think that both of those mindsets are stupid.
Agreed.
But here's what I mean. If I have to take a sinful desire and submit it to the Lord, that means I wasn't submitted to the Lord in the first place.
My life isn't,
I think it's the wrong way to say it.
Okay.
I think the way to say it is, it's an example, a sign, a fruit that your life isn't submitted to the Lord, at least in that moment.
Yeah.
You don't take the thing that exists that you're doing by your own power, by your own work on your flesh, and then submit it to the Lord. It is contrary to.
Yeah.
So stop that. I'm not sure I would land in the same boat. I don't know if you would like mix those together. I think that I know what you're after. I just don't think that
is the way to say it.
I don't think someone takes something that is done in their own flesh and says, submit that flesh to the Lord.
Okay.
You wouldn't say that.
Okay.
Right?
Finish the thought.
You would say that's contrary to who God is.
Yes.
Stop acting in the flesh.
Yeah.
Not submit that thing to the Lord.
Okay.
I think I know the heart of what you're trying to say is what you're actually saying is like, live your life with the perspective that everything you do is for the glory of Jesus.
Yeah.
If there's a part of your life that's not glorifying to Jesus, stop.
Yeah. Glorify Jesus.
I think what people think you mean when you say submit that to the Lord is you take the behavior you're doing on your own and you keep doing it on your own, but you do it from a different perspective.
No.
Which is not what you're saying, but it really is what, like all the things you just said, that's why I said it didn't make sense, is like, I think I knew it was going on in your head, but it sounded like you were saying,
gotcha.
At first it sounded like you were saying like, sin for the glory of Jesus.
No.
But I knew that's not what you were saying.
No.
And then it said, I think what you're after with the submit it all to the Lord is, let your life, all the plans and purposes that you have for your life, let it be done with the intention of the glory of God.
Yeah.
I think where people mess up, and maybe this is why I feel the necessity to say it differently, is I think they still think that is, there's part of their life that's done in submission to Jesus, and there's part of their life that's done in submission to whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
And they live two pieces. Like there's two pieces of their life, and I don't think that we say take those two pieces and submit them both to Jesus. I think we say no. Stop living your life submitted to you.
Yeah.
Take that part of your life out.
Yeah.
And let your entire
whole life belongs to the Lord.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there are things in us. Let me say it a different way. Fix it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there are things in me that, and I'll qualify it, nothing overt and nothing that I'm presently aware of. I am sure that there are parts of me that are not glorifying to Jesus, that I am not presently aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when those things are revealed to us, we feel a sense of ownership, and we're like, yeah, but like, like, and when those things are revealed to me, this goes back to our conversation last week, because Christ is king, those things then need to be annihilated because they're inconsistent with my king.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, there are things in me that are not contrary to the king. For example, I still want to work on sculpture. I'm sorry, Darren, I'm not there yet. I still want to work on sculpture. I still want to paint more. I have my youngest son, Riker, has been asking me now for a couple of months, like, Dad, when are you going to pursue publishing? I want you to try to publish your stories, which I would really love to do. None of that is contrary or inconsistent with the person of Christ.
Right.
What I have to do, though, is take even those benign or innocuous desires and go, but ultimately, my aim is to glorify Jesus.
Right.
My first aim.
Okay, I think I'd still like to restructure it.
Okay.
I think you're still building a platform with almost like the goal, like the place you're moving towards is the glory of Jesus.
Okay.
I think I'd like to flip it on its head.
Okay.
Because the purpose and the goal
really
of
like that you're moving your hands because I can see a picture in my head.
I think if the goal and purpose of your life, the foundation, the core of your life is the glory of Jesus in every decision you make, then it's built on that. You're not having to say, I'm going to put the perspective of wanting to publish and write and do sculptures, and I'm moving it towards this perspective of glorifying
I see what you're
Jesus.
saying, yeah.
It works much better if it's foundational. Then when you do it, you're not having to go, am I doing this sculpture for the glory of Jesus? Because you know the foundation of everything you do in your life is with the intention of glorifying Jesus.
Yeah.
Flip it on its head. I think it works better.
It does work better. How do we help the people who are in the process of learning what that looks like?
I think it actually is. I got it. It is the perspective shift.
Okay.
Nobody wants to hear this because they want me to give them a formula.
Yeah.
It's a perspective shift of your entire life. I think it's exemplified.
This is not the shirt that I thought I put on this morning, and I looked down and I was genuinely surprised. I was like, "What? What am I wearing?"
I didn't know I had that.
I didn't. I did not think this was the shirt I grabbed.
Pierce, is this your shirt? How did I get this?
Whose shirt am I wearing?
I think what I'm about to say, the perspective shift is identified by how you or shown by how you view your identity.
Mm-hmm.
So the perspective shift is, which we mentioned some of this last week. I used to be dead, now I'm alive.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a slave, now I'm a son.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be in darkness, now I'm in light. Like you can say, there's all these things in the scripture that say this is who you were and then who you are now.
Absolutely.
The perspective shift is this is who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's shown by how that identity is lived out in your life. And I think this is kind of what you were after earlier.
Good.
Like when circumstances come, your response to that shows your perspective of your identity, how you respond to it. As my mom's dying with cancer, saying like, this doesn't change anything for my life. I'm still going to die for the glory of Jesus. It shows, it's the fruit of the fact that her life was founded
Submitted
in
to the
her
purpose of God.
identity
Yeah.
from the perspective of who she is in God. If not, what she does in a moment of the worst struggle you can go through in life, which is death, is you flounder. And you see what I'm saying?
Yep. So then, okay, I like it. So then this is not about individual responses to circumstances.
Mm-mm.
However, individual responses to circumstances will indicate whether or not you are actually living for the purpose and glory of God, or whether you're living for yourself.
Yes. And nobody wants to hear that because it seems too easy. They want like an ABC, a 1, 2, 3. Like here, do this and do this and do this, and then you'll arrive at this place. Lift this much weight and you'll get ripped. But the Bible, over and over again in the New Testament, basically says change your perspective, change your perspective, change your perspective.
So if you do
set your mind on the things above, set your heart on the things above.
You do something and you spectacularly fail at it. It's not sinful. It's just a business endeavor or whatever. And you fell at it and you're like, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. If that's your response, then you are living for the purpose of the Lord. If your whole world implodes, then because your identity was tied up in the success of that or whatever, then it reveals the cracks in your system.
I think we can take it farther and make it a little more intense. Let's say that business endeavor broke your financial situation completely. Like you and your family are in a very, very, very bad place. Let's say that, I'm probably the least risk averse of the three of us. Let's say I do something like I make an investment and I take everything we have. And I like leverage like crazy. And I have debt on everything we have to make this investment and it fails. And literally our house is taken away, our cars are taken away, and like we have nothing. First of all, I'm an idiot.
Yes.
And I
was going to say that.
And I will suffer the consequences of my dumb decision, right?
Yeah.
But let's just say I was in that place and I wouldn't do that because of wisdom, and I wouldn't do that because I have friends with a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of reasons I wouldn't do that. But let's say I do that, hypothetically. What I can do is I'm going to feel the sorrow. I'm going to feel the pain. I'm going to feel the struggle of the moment. And I'm going to have to work through what it looks like to move forward. The shift, though, is, or the example of a shift of perspective is if you guys heard me say, I'm worthless, I'll never amount to anything, then my identity doesn't rest in Jesus. If you hear me go, man, I did something incredibly stupid and I'm an idiot and it's never, it's never going to work. Then, but man, what a joy it is to know that even in the midst of my stupidity, what can't be taken away from me is who I am in Christ.
Well, if our, I think that we have to come to the place where whether the world would say we have succeeded or failed, that we can say we've lived for the glory of God. Because over and over
Absolutely.
again, early on in the beginning of us planting the church, we had, I'm thinking of two people specifically, I think, that came to us and said, you guys are doing it wrong. I don't agree with the way y'all are doing it. You're flying by the seat of your pants, blah, 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 blah. And they both started churches, the churches they started lasted less than 2 years. They were done. I think they're both still pastoring in other places, but here we are still moving forward, right? And doing the same thing. And our attitude, I won't ever forget the phone call. Like we were 6 years in and we were running about 40 people. And he said, what are you doing wrong? You should be a lot more than 40 by now, And he goes, that's what I like about the program I'm in, the church planning program I'm in. They really know what they're doing, not like you guys. And it's really
called me.
it's really interesting because if my affection is tied to that perception, then I'm defeated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it's about me. But if I say, well, I didn't start this church with Micah to be famous. We started it because we believe that this is something that God has led us to.
That's why I did it.
and we just want to be faithful with what's in front of us.
This is a good example because it didn't mean that you didn't struggle. It didn't mean that you didn't have what I mean by struggle is it didn't mean that there wasn't like an emotional response to this. You weren't able to just go.
I was mad.
Right. That's what I'm saying is there was, I don't want people to hear this and go, it means you're void of all the emotions that go with the circumstances.
No, I was mad at this person.
What shifted though, or what didn't shift is the direction. You didn't feel like a failure, didn't feel like you're worthless. This would have been different if someone had said, hey, let me confront something that you guys are doing. I think you might be doing it wrong from a biblical perspective. And you'd be like, oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a different conversation.
Absolutely.
Sure.
But you weren't void of the emotions of the moment. You didn't just it wasn't literally like a water off your back. You're like, we're just going to keep going, right? This is like an emotional thing. So the perspective that my life is lived for the glory of Jesus, that my identity rests in him, doesn't mean I'm void of the circumstances of dealing with the emotions of what happens or having to deal with the outcome of whatever decision I make. That is just part of life. That's just life.
Yeah.
But the difference is if my identity rests in Jesus and my perspective is everything needs to be done in my life for the glory of him, then it does shape how I handle it.
Sure.
It shapes every moment. I'll give you an example, kind of a benign example from my life. I don't know if you know this, but I'm kind of an aggressive person by nature.
Oh, weird.
Weird.
And there's this one turn. It's I don't know what you call it. One of those it's over by the mall. There's a kind of not a roundabout, but where you turn, if you're on one side of the loop, over by Firestone, and you make a loop around, where you'd be coming into the entrance of the mall by Chili's.
Yeah.
People come around that all the time. There's a yield sign on their side. I usually come from, because I live on the other side, I come down that road and I'm turning right by Chili's, which is the same kind of turn with a yield sign. There's not really, as far as I understand, maybe someone can tell me this, but there's not really a law for who gets to go first. It seems like it's, for what I understand, more of a cordial thing. It's whoever gets there first goes.
Right.
And then if there's 5 cars in line by the Firestone turn and I'm one line and me, then one car goes and then I go next. But never fails, every freaking morning, those people come around that turn and they just keep going.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of times I've been flipped off because I go when the cordial time is for it to go. After one car to go, I go. And then another car comes and they flip me off I'm...
Yeah, we both have yield signs.
I know. Someone did the same thing to me the other day, turning left by Chick-fil-A, the newer Chick-fil-A, not the newer Chick-fil-A, the one across from the Super Walmart. I don't know if you guys have ever looked, but there's 2 turn lanes. The left turn lane, the line drawn on the road, not my assumption, on the road, the left turn lane gets the first 2.
Goes into 2 lanes.
2 lanes. The right lane goes into the farthest lane, and that's how the freaking line's drawn.
Yep.
The other day, I was in the left lane, and I turned into the middle lane, and this car came honking and flipping me off. And this is my example, sorry, getting there, because I'm an aggressive person. Every bit of me wants to roll the window down every time and be like, go look at the line, you freaking... I just want to... Anyways.
That's what I did, basically.
That's what I did at Chick-fil-A. It's benign, right? There's nothing right or wrong about the emotion I feel in terms of when people flip me off in that moment or honk at me. But what I've realized what I've realized is if I let that emotion, I don't know how to say this well, take root, it affects me in a way that I think is not glorifying to Jesus. Does that make sense? Or can.
Yeah.
So it's benign, but I've identified it. And what I've been trying to do lately is go, how can I take hold of this situation and not let it become something that becomes a problem where I am going to live in a way that is dishonoring to Jesus?
Sure.
It doesn't change the emotion I feel in the moment.
Sure.
But I think how I respond to that is based on that emotion is based on the perspective of I want to glorify Jesus. So
Sure.
like when the person honked at me and flipped me off by the Chick-fil-A, I just kept driving.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm saying like that's the right thing to do. I'm just saying like for me personally, because I'm an aggressive person, if I let that thing take root, like I'm going to follow them and have them roll down their window and we're going to drive back to the Chick-fil-A and we're going to get out on the street and look at the line and they're going to owe me $100. I'm totally going to mind ninja them into betting on the way over there. Like I'll probably do that stuff. Right. And I don't know if that's that beneficial because then I'm going to tell everybody about the whole situation and then it just lives in my mind for the next few days. And I've just ruined the next few days because I've let this dumb little thing take root.
Yeah.
And maybe take root's the wrong word. I don't know.
No, I know what you mean. I was watching a video of a guy this morning. He was kind of talking about some of those kinds of responses where you just fly off the handle or whatever, which I'm not saying you did, but where you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, when you fly off the handle, when you lose control like that, he goes, it's a really good indicator that there's some part of your heart that you're not submitting to Jesus.
So, okay, it's funny. Okay, I'm glad you said that. I can't think of the last time in my life. I literally have no memory of me flying off the handle.
No, I definitely have, but you haven't.
No, I'm just saying, like,
I think
when people see me respond, if I rolled the window down and if I'm like, the line's the other way, this is not me flying off the handle.
Yeah.
People are just uncomfortable with the confrontation.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think people view that as Micah's flying off the handle. I mean, a few weeks ago at church when there was a situation and I was very intense, I'm sure there were probably some people who saw that or like Micah's flying off the handle. I promise I'm not.
Yeah.
Like you feel that way because that's how most people respond, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get judged by how most people respond.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the case for me. So I'm making that a point because I think there are people who fly off the handle, but like for me, I'm not even flying off the handle. Like for me, this isn't even I agree with that guy. I think if you fly off the handle, you're like, you should question.
Lose control.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not even saying I'm losing control.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For me, this isn't flying off the handle. For me, I'm saying, I just don't want this to be part of my life for the next while because I don't want that to affect in an emotional way the decisions I make moving forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and we have the opportunity every day with, I don't want to exaggerate. If you're living your life, if you're not like I was last week, sick in bed for 5 days, if you're out and living your life, you're making 100 choices a week, right? Or other people are making an extra 100 choices a week that impact you in some way. Mm-hmm. And we have the opportunity to respond in each one of those as though our personal agenda is in view or the glory of God is in view. Mm-hmm. And when we are like, oh man, I can't believe they would do that to me or whatever, like the people crucified the King of Glory. So first of all, I'm not really surprised by anybody who does something wicked or stupid,
right? But
also like, okay, how do I live for the glory of God? And it doesn't mean that you can't defend yourself, and it doesn't mean that you can't stand up for what's true and for what's right. Like, those kinds of things. We don't have to be cowards. We don't have to be, but there are times, I think, that there were times that Paul said, hey, you're about to beat a Roman citizen and I'm not condemned. Mm-hmm. And there were times he didn't do that.
Yeah.
And all of that from Paul's consideration was, I'm going to do this for the glory of God.
Yeah, there's some reason why he did do that in one time and didn't do it the other time.
He did not demand that the Corinthians financially support his ministry.
But he did everybody else.
But he did for all the other places because the aim was the glory of God. And we can talk about that from
a wisdom perspective.
Absolutely. The people who were eating meat sacrificed to idols were not doing it from the perspective of glorifying God. They were doing it from the perspective of their own.
Yeah, what they wanted.
What they wanted.
This is probably a fair way to say it. I might hate this in a second, but I think it's difficult as a believer to act in wisdom if your life isn't lived for the glory of Jesus.
Okay, I agree with that.
I think the reason I'm arguing with myself in my head is I think there's a lot of stuff in like Ecclesiastes and Proverbs that are wisdom things that aren't the
Inherently
implications.
Christian.
Yeah. I'm just saying as a believer,
Mhm.
right? So as a believer, I think it's difficult to make wise decisions,
Mhm.
actually wise decisions, if it's not with the intention of the glory of Jesus.
Mhm.
And I'm using those words like
I know what you mean, though.
that's why I'm saying it's
Yeah.
difficult. I'm not saying you
Mhm.
can. It's the better. I'll say it in a positive way. It is much easier to go through life and make wise decisions if your life is lived for the glory of Jesus.
Yeah. Well,
And I
and
think that's across the board.
I don't know, a month or so ago now, Asher texted me after school. He was driving down to the tennis courts, or about to drive down to the tennis courts for practice. And he said, hey, I just got hit in the parking lot. My car got hit in the parking lot. And so I called him, asked him if he was okay. He was good. And I said, well, get the information from the other guy. And he goes, well, he already left. He had to go to work. And so 2 16-year-old kids that neither one know like what the
do.
procedure is, or,
It's
you know.
tough, yeah.
Yeah. So I said, well, we need to get his number. I need to talk to his dad. And thankfully the kid messaged Asher on Instagram and he said, my dad wants to talk to your dad, and can you call? And so I called the dad that night. It was a Wednesday night, so it was like 8:30 after church. And I called him that night, and I was just, hey, how are you? And he was like, so I hear our boys had an accident. And he was like, yeah. And I said, well, my understanding is that your son backed into my son. And he goes, yep, that's what my son's saying too. And he goes, I've called the insurance, but it was after hours, so they'll call you tomorrow. Like, here's our information, blah, blah, blah. I was like, great, that was really easy. Well, the next day, I don't ever hear from the insurance. And so it's getting close to the end of the day. I call the father, and he goes, yeah, he said, my son and his friends are now saying that your son pulled forward into him. And so, and I could have been like, okay, whatever, and been like mad about it. But what I told the guy is, well, yeah, I just want to get to the bottom of it. If my son's at fault, we'll take care of you guys and your son's car. And if your son's at fault, we'll take care of it. And I said, I just want to get to the bottom of it. And there was a part of me in that moment that realized we might not ever get to the bottom of it, because it's he said, you know? And then I come to find out that there's cameras in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very thankful. And I called the school and I said, can you look this up? And they said, yes. And they looked it up, and they called me back and they said it was not your son's fault. And so I was like, great, I'm going to drive up there so I can get it. And I texted the dad, and I was like, hey, they have video. I'm going to go check it out. And they had already told me it wasn't my son's fault. But I'm like, I don't know. I want to see it, you know, because they're like, I'm not a police officer. I don't know. It doesn't look like it's. Anyway, so I see the video. It's clearly not my son's fault. Before I can even finish watching the video, the father contacts me, and he goes, the principal just called me. He goes, it looks like it's my son's fault. And I said, do you still want me to send you the video? Yes, please. And so I sent him the video. And the dad was really nice the whole time. But at the end of it all, he thanked me. We were going back and forth for 2 days. At the end of it all, he thanked me. He goes, man, thanks for being so kind and all this. I know it was a headache, sorry. And he goes, I'll have my insurance people call you. And but he was like, thank you for just being kind in it. Because I think both of us are expecting the other person to not be kind.
Right.
And I don't know who that guy is, but I know that I represent Jesus. And at this point, we're just two dads taking our son's word for it, trying to figure out what happened so that we can do the right thing that needs to be done.
No, let's say what you actually mean. Your two dads trying to figure out who's going to have to pay the deductible.
Yes. Yeah, because which of us is going to have insurance that's going up next month? Right. You know, but my attitude in it was like, whether it's my son's fault or not, my attitude is,
okay, great example. Let's pretend it was.
Yeah.
And your insurance goes up and you have to pay a deductible.
Yep.
How you respond to that kind of shows where your perspective is.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation. It's not fun. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there. Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. I've been there, right? But it's even from like my relationship with Seth rear-ended somebody when he was 16.
Way to go, Seth.
Way to go,
I
Seth.
did too when I was 16.
And it was like right during COVID where like you can't get cars for cheap. Anyways, it was the whole thing. Anyways, I feel like I dealt with the situation fine, but there was a question of like, how mad am I actually going to get at my son? Like, you have the possibility to really put a dent in your relationship with your kid over something that doesn't really make that big of a difference,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's an example of how you handle it, wisdom based on the perspective.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I can't instruct him like, hey, dude, I asked him, like, tell me what happened and we walked through it and I was like, all right, so here's some thoughts for next time. As someone who drives in this kind of crazy traffic all the time, it was nuts. The traffic that day was nuts. This old lady cut. He was over by the building that no one used to know what it was, between where Baker Street used to be and the Sonic. It was probably a CIA building or something like that. Like they were right by that building. A lady comes from the far left lane and slowly cuts all the way across traffic. And the car, we were bumper to bumper, and they were moving, and the car in front of Seth had to slam on his brakes so the lady get out of the way, and then Seth was just too close to him. So like we talked about like how to handle it next time.
Yeah.
I could have screamed at him.
Sure.
And been like, you put me in this really bad situation. I could have done that. Or I could have just been like, all right, this is the situation that is, and I could have moved, and I did, and I moved forward. And it's not a conversation we're going to have. Well, that's not true. Aiden and Grayson love to give him crap about it. Hey, isn't this that spot where you rear into that lady?
That's funny. Well, yeah, but to your point, like when Asher was learning to drive, I try to play out every scenario in my head that could happen. It's stupid.
I feel like some Adderall will help you get like zoned in on that.
Probably would.
I'm joking.
I know a guy.
Joking.
But I had already been practicing before Asher texted me, a month ago and said, hey, I was in a car accident. I had been practicing for like a year what I say whenever I inevitably get this call.
Yeah.
Because I know what my reaction probably would be
if you hadn't thought about it.
If I hadn't thought about it.
This is you being aware of like your tendencies in a smart way.
Yeah. And so wanting to go, how do I glorify God in this?
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
And so I've already figured out what my response is if Michelle dies. I've planned it out. I've figured out if
I'm not interested in moving that direction, to be honest.
I've figured out if my boys die, if one of the boys dies, if all my family dies. I'm morbid. I think of
what if they all live, Ryan?
I've got that planned out too. So, but recognizing, it's a long story and it's not worth telling right now, but something shifted in my brain in August of 97 when I was reading, this is the short version. I was reading Ezekiel 24 where God comes to Ezekiel and he says, hey, the wife in whom your eyes delight, I'm going to take her from you. She's going to die tonight. And this will be a sign to these rebellious people who will never listen to you, by the way, that I'm going to destroy Jerusalem. I'm going to destroy the delight of their eyes, and they won't get a chance to mourn. And so don't mourn your wife. And Ezekiel says, and so that night my wife died, and the next morning I got up and did what the Lord said. And something shifted in my brain that August of 97 where I just said, okay, God, my life is yours.
Right.
Be glorified.
Of all the texts to bring you to that place.
Right.
Like,
yeah, but it did. You know what I mean? That, like,
this is God working inside of how Ryan works.
Yes.
This is Ryan's mind, Ryan's background, your tendencies, and God's reminding you of something from a perspective that really hits home with you.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought, how does Ezekiel have that response? And the only way he has that response is he values what God wants more than what he wants.
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, like that. All right. Like that's what I want for my life too. And I think that we have to be intentional about that. Where we
That's a good way to say it.
We say my life for your glory.
Right.
And then Micah, because that's our foundation, then everything we're doing, we have that
comes from that perspective. No, I love the way you said that. We have to be intentional about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't think it's something that just like comes. I don't think you wake up one morning and go and you pray, all right, God, help me live today to the glory of you, and then aren't intentional with the rest of your day. Like I think it's a great way to say it. We have to be intentional with that continuing to be the foundation of everything we do.
Yeah.
That's our perspective.
Yep.
There was most of the time with Adeline, if we have to correct her, kind of like explain why what she's doing is wrong or rude or destructive or whatever. A lot of the times for her, like she'll just kind of be going about her day or she'll be doing something, and then we have to kind of sit down and really kind of explain it. She's a lot more rational minded than Riley has ever been. So Riley's very like emotion driven. If I walk through why something is the way it is with Adeline, she'll get on pretty quickly. But most of the time, it's the level of intentionality that we've had to have. Most of her life has been like us sitting down and being really intentional, walking through and explaining to her why we're reacting this way. And recently, I got onto her for something. She grabbed my water bottle and started like peeling off stickers and like tearing stuff up, and she was just in like this destructive streak. And I was like, hey, no, we don't do that. It doesn't belong to you. And I've been really trying to, my first response is I want to match the intensity of like, hey, this is like, I'm not joking with you. Like, I don't want to have any humor in there. And Hannah's told me when I do that, I also get loud. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to be really intentional with volume, trying to teach, trying to be intentional in all these ways, right? I'm trying to be able to hear what I'm saying, right? And so you
yell at me in the car all the time,
all the time, dude. But I got onto her and I was really stern, and I was mentally preparing for maybe walk through with her, trying to be like that level of intentionality. But I saw as I'm talking to her and telling her, no, we don't do that, her eyes changed completely and welled up immediately. And I saw the guilt and the like, oh no moment in her.
You're like,
and
victory.
What's interesting is, so y'all talking about like intentionality, is if I had made the strict definition of intentionality is you have to have this long drawn out lesson now, that wouldn't have been helpful in that moment, right? And it was definitely the urging of the Spirit of just like, hey, you love her, you forgive her. Like, this isn't a time for a lesson. Like, she got it. She
knew in that moment.
I know. So like, it's one of those things. So just like the submitting, right? Of just like, I knew in that moment what this little girl needs to hear is how much I forgive. This does not bear weight on our relationship. We know for next time. And I held her, and she was still so stiff, and there's one tear going down her eye, and she was just like, I said, you know, I said that's wrong, but that doesn't change that Daddy loves you. And she goes, I love you. And I was like, I'm on the couch like weeping with my daughter, like, oh my gosh. And it was just a stupid sticker on a thing. Dude. And I was like,
I love it.
It was just one of those things of trying to stop that destructive streak. But she got it, and I was like, oh gosh. So
I think it's a good way to like. A perspective to add is that I think there's times when you know.
Yeah.
I don't think you can always quantify it. It can't always be something you're like, hey, let me call somebody and figure out what the best thing is in this moment. Like, I think sometimes you just know.
Exactly.
Like, this
100%.
is what the Lord's telling me to do or not to do in this moment, or how to respond. There are so many times I will say something, even if it's not bad, but I'll say something in the moment going, oh, like, that was... like I crossed some kind of line in that person's emotions or thought or something. And it will, like, I think it's a teaching lesson from the Lord. Like, it will, like, I don't know how to describe this. It will, like, physically hurt my heart for the next few hours.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I know. Like, it's like,
shocked.
Like, I know it. And I think it's really just, I think it's.
You're so tender.
I think it's because I just say what needs to be said usually.
Yeah,
I think there's this sense where, like, even though that's my personality and tendency, I have to be sensitive to where the Spirit's leading in that moment.
Sure.
And so I think I want to be better in my wisdom in those moments of being like, it's a goal. The goal with Adeline is not for her to like be a perfect girl. The goal is to like for you to shape her and train her in a way that is beneficial and for her to live a life for the glory of Jesus.
Absolutely.
Right. So the goal is that, which means that sometimes the way you get there changes. Absolutely. It's not like you set a rule, like every time you peel stickers off my water bottle, I'm going to, put you in timeout for, I don't know what you do. You're millennial, so you don't ever do anything else besides that.
It's nothing negative.
You get down there and go, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Stickers off my water bottle. I'm joking. But I think that's a great point. Like, you have to be sensitive where the Spirit's leading in that as well.
Yeah.
I'm only tender in certain moments. I think that the majority of my life, I'm not very tender.
Yeah, I think you're nicer than people think you are.
Probably so. Because I think if I wasn't, I would blast people a lot more.
Well,
because I'm not concerned about how it looks in terms of like the repercussions on me.
Right.
I'm really more concerned about like the goal of moving that person moving forward. Yeah.
Right.
I really, and that's a better way to say it. I really am concerned about truth more than anything else.
Yeah. And consistency within truth. Yeah.
Which I think is truth.
Yeah. But a lot of people are inconsistent without realizing their inconsistencies.
Right.
And maybe God's just trying to teach me more patience with people's inconsistencies and truth. It's hard. It's very hard.
Well, it's what you reminded me of a long time ago, that I was frustrated and with something at church. I don't even remember what the situation was, but you said, well, has God called you to be a teacher or not? And you said, so teach them. Instead of being frustrated with them, teach them.
Yeah.
And so instead of being frustrated that they don't get it, you're a freaking teacher.
Right.
Teach them so they get it.
Unless they're a teacher, then I have zero patience.
So, We started off talking about
I don't really
God's
know a
purpose of
simpler
our
view.
life.
Oh, yeah,
God's
yeah.
purpose
No,
of our
so I got
life
the
is to
view.
glorify God.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. I think it's a simpler view.
Oh my gosh, I stole it. I'm
There
so
you go.
sorry.
That's it.
God's purpose of our life is to glorify God. And instead of kind of like the analogy or the illustration you had talked about earlier, instead of that being, I need to find out these areas of my life and then get them to a place where they glorify God, rather having the foundation of our lives as believers be our goal and our desire is to glorify God with our lives. And then things will flow from that. And there will be distinctions on what we do and what we don't do.
And then be intentional about letting that be your goal.
And what that looks like. Yeah, exactly. And submit to the Lord, submit to the Spirit. Yeah. So you said something earlier, Ryan. I forget the exact context of what was going on. You were like, yeah, just do it. And I love that sentence so much. Like, yeah, just glorify God. Just Christian, do it. Like, come on, just do it.
Go.
Sorry, Nike. We owe them a lot of money.
I don't think you put that on a t-shirt. And get away with it.
That's true. Yeah. I'll make really small, hey, Christian, and then just do it really big. The rest. Speaking of that, I saw an Easter sign, and this guy's like doing a slow zoom into this Easter sign. It was just basic. It was like celebrate the resurrection. Then it had like dates and times. It's like all it was. But this guy is slow zooming, and you see this one like black pixel, and he gets closer and closer to it. And it is, you know how when you start a new text layer, it does the lorem whatever that word is that it immediately pops in when you create a text layer on a digital thing. That word was there in one pixel. So it's LOREM. But there's a guy in the background being like, dude, no one's going to notice. No one's going to know. No one's going to notice. He's zooming in. And like, it hurt my heart as a graphic designer. I was like,
oh, take it out.
Exactly. You didn't delete all the layers, man. What are you doing? Not being intentional is what he's doing. Come on.
I don't know. Is that Latin? Lorem ipsum, something.
Somebody
like
explained it to me. There was somebody that wrote a paragraph of like nonsense to like be able to clarify, to be able to give good spacing and good like character dispersion. So I think it's all nonsense. But then the first two words of that paragraph are lorem and spinmare or something like that. So
there you go.
The more you know. And that could be nonsense too. That could be something that somebody just told me. But thank you guys for listening and being a part of this podcast, being a part of the Simpler community. We'd love to hear from y'all. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. This is a conversation that I know so many people get caught up in of how do I know I'm doing the will of God? What's the plan of God for my life? What's God's purpose for my life? And we see all throughout the scriptures and through the empowerment of the cross, the empty grave, and the Holy Spirit that our purpose is to glorify him with our lives.
Yep.
And we are now able to do that by the means of the Holy Spirit and who Jesus has made us to be. So rest in the truth of who you are in Christ and make your aim and your desire and your goal and your purpose to glorify him with your lives. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can encourage you in those areas, how we can pray for you in those areas. There's ways you can reach out, tag in the show notes down below. Find us at simplerpod. Say hi to Steven, leave a review, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And hey, as always, keep Christ as core. What could be simpler than that? Catch y'all next week. Bye.